Right, without further ado, let's crack on. Charlotte Fairbairn is creative director. I think is that your right title, Charlotte? Creative director um, at Lowther, and I went to see her a couple of weeks ago, and we had a lovely chat and a bowl of soup, and had a wander around Lowther as well. And we cooked up this session this morning to talk about Lowther and also to talk about the book festival that she's involved with as well. So, Charlotte, we've got your lovely slides. Welcome to the call. I know you were on the call last week, so you got a flavour of what we're all about. Over to you to tell us a bit about Lowther and what you're doing there.
Uh, Thank you very much. Thank you. Amy, are you going to you're going to do the slides, aren't you? Yeah. Thank you for having me. Yes, I am the creative director. I've been at Lowther since well, in a very small way since 2016, and I became the creative director about 2 or 3 years ago. My role there is to do all the content. So I've done the exhibitions, I've written the guidebooks, I do all the signs, I do all the websites, the content, the PR. And but so Tom and Kate said that they thought that this audience might be interested in the sort of nuts and bolts of Lowther rather than what you can go and see. You can go and see the history of the place in the latest exhibition, but the actual story of the restoration of the building, which is still going on, is what I want to focus on. Um, Next slide, please. So Lowther Castle was built. The Lowthers have been there. It's up for debate how long they've been there for, but probably definitely since the 12th century and probably earlier. But I won't go into the deep past. This particular building was built on the site of Lowther Hall, which had burnt down and had been standing in ruins for almost 100 years. Thank you, Katie, for that nice comment. And this is the first Lord Lonsdale William commissioned this from George Dance the Younger, who wasn't that young. He was actually old and bad-tempered, and he said he didn't want to do it because it was too far from London. So he gave it to Robert Smack, whose name will be familiar to people who live in Carlisle, particularly. And he built this when he was 26. Next slide, please. So these are the two Lowthers who are kind of responsible for the engendering of the castle and then its effective destruction, not its actual destruction. So on the left, that's William the First, Earl of Lonsdale, who commissioned it. And on the right is the Yellow Earl, who lots of people have heard of, who was the fifth Lord Lonsdale, who inherited the castle in great wealth and spent it. Next slide, please. This is a photograph of Lowther taken in 1939. It's an aerial photo. And to all intents and purposes, it looks like it's in its full magnificence. But actually, the Yellow Earl had been forced out in 1936 because the trustees they couldn't handle any more expenditure on his part. He kept a private orchestra, a private train. He took his dogs and first class carriage on the train. He spent money just like it was going out of fashion. But if you look closely at this, you will see that it has indeed been empty for a while. I mean, you probably can't see it on your screens, but actually, although there's a roof on and there are windows on, the parterres have gone. You can just see the shadows on the front there. And I guess if you look through the windows, you'd see it was in a pretty sorry state. The Yellow Earl didn't spend any money on it except to make it look, except to sort of frou-frou it up for his own pleasure. Next slide, please. And then in 1942, as anyone who's interested in tanks and the war, Second World War will know, the army requisitioned Lowther, and various tank regiments moved in and experimented on something called the Canal Defence Light. And this, again, the occupation of Lowther by the army added to its downfall, really. They used parts of the house and the stables for classrooms. They put concrete everywhere. They went willy-nilly over over the gardens in their tanks. So that was another kind of nail in its coffin, if you will. Next slide, please. So in 1944, the Yellow Earl died, and his heir was Lancelot, who's there on the right, looking rather elderly. He was elderly. He was 77. They were living in Askham Hall. He didn't want a dry rot-ridden kind of falling down castle. And it was just after the war, everyone was feeling poor. So he put all of the contents of the castle up for sale. And it was one of the biggest country house sales that's really ever been taken place. They had a huge collection. Next slide, please. And then the person who really did effectively destroy the castle, or at least take its roof off, was James Lonsdale, who was Lancelot's grandson, his father having died young. And the picture on the left gives you, I think that actually, when I looked at that picture again yesterday, I think that must have been during the sale, because you can see all the different vehicles lined up outside, all the carriages and things. But it shows the concrete and the general kind of mess left by the army. Next slide, please. So James Lonsdale was he was in the Normandy landings. He was a tank commander. He was in his 30s when he inherited. He was quite a socialist. He despised the extravagance of the Yellow Earl and all the extravagance that had gone on before. He wanted to demolish the castle completely. The good people of Penrith said, no, that we don't want that. He tried to get the local county councils around and about to take it on as an institution, but nobody had any money at that point. So he compromised and he just took off the roof, by which I mean he took absolutely everything off, all the ashlar. He completely stripped it down to its bones. Next slide, please. And then he turned it into, he just forgot about the castle. The castle was just an object in his way, and he set about commercializing the grounds. So you can see what he put just in the front of the south lawns. Next slide. I'm not sure how successful the pig operation was, because they've gone in that photo, and he's starting commercial spruce plantations. Next slide. And you can see the spruce growing up there and the beginnings of the commercial chicken operation. Next slide, please. And that's it a little bit further down the road. The castle looking pretty sad. Next slide, please. And again, just more sad castle. Next slide, please. I think that photo probably predates the one we've just had, but it just gives you an idea of how kind of derelict the place had become. It was just a sort of, the courtyard was just there in spite of the operation rather than to help it. Next slide, please. One of the consequences of taking all the ashlar off was that all the ironwork was exposed. And so when iron rusts, it expands, and that's one of the turrets, and it just shows that when they expand, the merlons then fall off. So it's never, I don't suppose any ruin is static, but this was a dynamic ruin. In other words, it was getting more ruinous. Next slide, please. That speaks for itself, I think. Next slide, please. Let go away. So James Lonsdale didn't die till 2006, but in 1999, English Heritage came along and said, hang on, this is a building of note, and it put it on the Heritage at Risk register. And that was the moment at which the fortunes of the actual building began to turn very slowly. Next slide, please. Jim Lowther, who's the current owner and who's responsible for pulling it back from the brink. He often fought with his father about what to do with the castle. James Lonsdale, as I said, he hated the place and he had no interest in saving it. But Jim wanted to save it, and he had actually bought it for £100 from his father. And then his father died, and Jim made that quote, which is kind of not that sentimental, but quite interesting. Next slide, please. And practically the day after his father died, Jim started knocking down the chicken sheds. Next slide, please. You can see the operation just getting underway. Next slide, please. Apart from the fact that that's a truly magnificent sign, this is just an indication of how big the whole operation was. I mean, everything was just dilapidated. Next slide, please. And again, that just shows the complexity of the operation that they were. And also, I mean, you can imagine how much it cost to put up that scaffold. I'll talk about fundraising in a second. Next slide, please. So that is, that's the concrete that the chicken sheds were on, but that's the extent of the concrete that the army put just in the gardens. It just shows you the kind of the reach of the job. As far as fundraising is concerned, Jim, in 2007, he met Brian Gray, who may be familiar to some of you on this call. And he was at the time, he was chairman of the Northwest Development Agency. And he and Jim set up a charity called Lowther Castle and Gardens Trust. And they set about raising money, not only from English Heritage, which did kind of get the ball rolling, but also from BIS, from the European Regional Development Fund, and from the Northwest Development Agency itself. Next slide, please. So they could begin to do things like clear the spruce plantations. That was a huge undertaking because the gardens are 130 acres, and I don't know how many acres of spruce there were, but I don't know, it would have been 70, and there's still some left actually. Next slide, please. When they were all sitting together with the trustees of the Lowther Castle and Gardens Trust, they were kind of puzzling over what to do with the castle. They knew that they had to stabilise the ruin and preserve it, and they wanted to do something with the gardens, but they hadn't really formulated a plan, and various completely batty ideas came up. This probably goes for batty number one. I think this was just a bonkers idea to have an outdoor theatre, which in Cumbria wouldn't have really worked. Next slide, please. But when they decided that they needed to appoint a garden designer, and they put out a call or a tender or whatever, and various landscape designers came forward. That place on the right that's covered in wisteria is Ninfa in Italy, which is famous among gardeners. I don't know if anyone here has been there. I haven't, but Jim Lowther had been there and obviously fell in love with it because it was wild and ruined. And Dan Pearson, pictured on the left, was one of the people who accepted the invitation to tender. And he said, I see Lowther as being something like Ninfa. And that completely that won it over the jury, so to speak. Next slide, please. This is just showing you just the graft a bit. That's another photograph just to show you the graft that went in. That was probably in about 2009, 2010, something like that. The contractors went bust, so that ate up a great deal of money for the for the trust. You can see all the scaffolding, all the roofing, all the planting of the lawns. There's so much to do still. Um, just a mammoth job. Next slide, please. And again, just more cranes. You can see the concrete still there from the army. Um, the courtyard, those upper windows they were all the grooms. Originally, they were the grooms' apartments. Apartments makes it sound grand. I don't expect they were grand, but and then they were rented out during the 60s to different families. I think there was quite a sweet little community in there for a while. And they are still actually undeveloped. On this side of the courtyard is where the offices are now. Next slide, please. Anyway, they kept the faith. Not everyone could, and it opened on the 5th of May 2012. Lowther Castle and Gardens. Next slide, please. This is a photo taken a few years ago now, actually by Val Corbett, who people here probably know. And that is Dan Pearson's parterre. The principles behind what we do at Lowther, and I say we rather grandly, but what is being done at Lowther is it's not a restoration project. It's about creating new layers of history, and it's not about supplanting what's already there. The story of the ruination and the redevelopment is as much a part of the story. It's not like we're pretending that we're going back to a past perfection. And in fact, if you see anyone who's been there recently will know that there's a crane in the parterre and you can't really go in there at the moment. If you look at the main doorway in the middle of the parterre there, and then above it, the main big window, above that was a pinnacle, which means an upside down kind of V between those two turrety things. And Jim was having a cigarette outside his old office in 2010 or so, and he heard this most almighty crash and went running up to the castle, and the pinnacle had fallen off. And now, 15 years later, which just, apart from anything else, just shows something about the single-mindedness of the project, that pinnacle is now being lowered into place by Lightfoots. And we'll be back there in a few weeks' time. Next slide, please. This is the Rose Garden. Those are some happy punters. The Rose Garden was put in 2017. It's a huge, I could say albatross, that might be a bit disloyal, but it's a big project, the Rose Garden, because there are so many roses to deadhead every 5 minutes. But it's hugely popular. People love the Rose Garden. That's another Dan Pearson innovation. We now have, last year we had 112,000 visitors. The year before we had 125. This year, I think we'll probably go back to about 120 something, thanks to all this lovely spring weather. Next slide, please. This is our cash cow. Jim put that in 2017. It's the Lost Castle Adventure Playground, and that really does help to fund the ongoing conservation works that go on. The garden it gobbles up money, as you can imagine, and so too, I mean, the ruins will be completed, what we hope, at the end of 2027, or possibly a bit before then. But anyway, that's been a lifesaver financially. Next slide, please. That's Jim on the right. That's Dan on the left. That was taken a few years ago. Hats off to them both, really. I don't think many people could have taken on a project like this and endured it for 25 years, because it's not only arduous fundraising and stuff, but it's also just a grind. I mean, and with quite large measures of stress thrown in. Next slide, please. That was last week. That's the pinnacle just being um, tweaked into place. I don't think tweak, it's probably a stonemasonry term, but still. And then the last slide, please. So there it is. It's that's it almost completed. You can see on the right hand side the western range. That's where all the old domestic offices were and where all the servants lived. And that's the bit that Lightfoot are working towards. They're doing the scaffolding on the Western Sculpture Gallery, and then they're going around all the parapets. And yes, let's hope it's finished in the next year or two. So that's a kind of it's a tiny snapshot of the labours of Lowther. That's what I should call it, really.
What a fascinating story, Charlotte.
Yeah, yeah,
Just really beautifully told as well, with some fantastic pictures. You get a sense of, goodness me, they pulled it back from the brink with those chickens and those pigs.
yeah, yeah,
And lovely note from Sue talking about she remembers when in the early days, and then now taking her grandchildren there, and that's the place they always want to go to. It doesn't surprise me at all.
yes,
And the adventure playground, it's fascinating. He's called that a cash cow. What a genius idea that was to put that in there, because it sort of suits the castle as well, doesn't it? Because it's obviously a castle
yeah,
itself, and
yeah,
it's beautifully landscaped, further down the valley from the castle itself.
yeah. Well, I think a true castle snob would say that Lowther's not a castle for one thing. It's just castellated. It was a sort of frivolous act of vanity in some ways. I mean, I shouldn't say that because I'm on Lowther's side, but then so to have an adventure playground that's built in the form of a castle, it sort of speaks to that, if that's not too annoying way of putting it. I mean, it had its serious side to it, Lowther, but mostly it was about showing off.
Yeah.
Across the generations, it was it was always a second home, I think.
And
And hello, Francesca. Yes, sorry. Yeah, go on.
no, I was just going to say, what's it like working there? Is it full of fascinating, interesting, creative people? Is it a
Uh,
grind, ups and downs?
uh, it's not. I don't find it a grind. I mean, I don't work there full time. The Vanessa Lowther, Jim's wife, is the sort of creative overlord. And there's me, and then Andrea Brunsendorf, who's the head gardener. We're the content people. It's not a big team. We don't have loads of staff. We run it on a very tight rein. I absolutely love working there. I really do. Very proud of it.
I'm sure. And that whole yellow earl thing, you said yellow, then the brand of Lowther is very much you've kind of honed in on the yellowness of it all, and it works really well. I think it's
Well,
really clever branding.
I mean, it goes back. It's not without there is a serious reference there because the crest was six annulet sable, i.e., six black rings on a field of ore of gold. And so it's derived, it should really be gold. And it was the Yellow Earl who took it to the max. And he was the first president of the AA and the first, I think he was the chairman of Arsenal football team. And anyway, so that's why the AA has yellow livery. That's why the Arsenal football away shirt, I'm in very thin ice here, so if I'm wrong, is yellow. And I mean, it was natural that we pick it up. I mean, again, it's a sort of um, he took it. He totally took it to the max. I think he probably became a bit sartorially a bit boring about yellow, but um,
Impressive knowledge,
because
Charlotte. Impressive. Blue
yeah,
shorts, yellow shirts normally. They're always stripped.
thank
Uh,
you.
Good stuff. I'd just like to say also the cafe at Lowther is tip top. Nice soup, nice ice cream, and you've got that lovely courtyard to sit in and enjoy it
Mhm.
as well, and do a bit of people watching, etc., etc. Charlotte, thank you. Stay there, obviously, because you're going to talk about the book festival in a second. But thank you for giving us that whistle stop tour. And anybody who hasn't been to Lowther, I think you'll have a real insight into how beautiful it is for you to enjoy. And you can spend hours there. You know, you want to spend a whole afternoon or a morning or even a whole day there very easily.
Yeah. The one the one thing I will say about Lowther as a place, and you might get that from the exhibition, is that it really does hold a mirror up to the history of Cumbria and the Northwest. Everything that went, from the Scots Reivers um, to the kingdom of, from the kingdom of Cumbria and the big convocation really does reflect the history of Cumbria in all sorts of different ways.
Yeah, great. As Derek says, English eccentrics personified by the Lowthers. Absolutely fascinating tale. So well told. Thank you, Derek.
Thank you
Right,
very
Charlotte, I'm going to
much.
give you a minute to take your Lowther hat off and put on the
Okay.
book festival hat in a second. And I'm going to cross to Kate, who's going to talk about something at Abbot Hall, I think.
Well, I am, but I just wanted to say, first of all, I see Christine Entwistle is on the call. And hello, Christine. I just wanted to say how much I absolutely loved your performance also at the open space on Saturday night at Theatre by the Lake. We were just talking earlier about Zoe's, and I hadn't seen that you were on the call, but I also loved yours. It was really, really good.
Oh, thank you so, so much, and thanks for coming and for your concentration and attendance. It's a very long evening, I think.
It was fascinating, and yeah, yeah. When it comes to fruition, Christine, I really recommend heartily that everybody comes to see it,
Thank
wherever
you.
that may be. In addition to that, I just wanted to say that the good people at Abbot Hall, Lakeland Arts, have just been in touch about a new exhibition called Expanding Landscapes. That is opening. In fact, the opening is tonight, and everybody's invited. So Lee, who's the marketing head of marketing, has been in touch to say all of CACN is welcome for the preview at Abbot Hall tonight, 5 till 7. I mean, I hope everybody doesn't turn up because that would be 900 people. But also the exhibition itself opens tomorrow to the public. So yeah, I said I would mention it. And please, if you are in Kendal or there or thereabouts, feel free to pop along to the opening at 5 o'clock tonight. That's it, Tom.
Thank you. I've just had a quick look at Katie Hale's exhibition, one of her first ever poetry projects about Lowther. It looks fascinating. Some lovely slides, and if you get a chance to look at Katie's stuff that she did back in the day, gosh, that's quite a while ago. Have a look. And as I think Amy mentioned earlier on the call before we started, a bit of Lowther on the Digging for Britain episode that was mentioned, and also Carlisle, Roman Dig, that was on recently and it's on the BBC iPlayer. Blimey, breaking news all around us. Right, let's go back to Charlotte Fairbairn, who's now taken off her Lowther hat and she's put on a book festival hat with a cunning plan for next year. So, Charlotte, give us a whistle-stop tour of what your thinking is about something going on in the south of the county, I think, sometime next summer. Over to you again. You've drifted onto mute, Charlotte, so come off mute. There you go.
Sorry, I'm drifting. Yes, so me and Christopher de Bellaigue put our heads together. Christopher de Bellaigue, for those of you who don't know him, is a historian and a journalist. He spent a lot of time as a foreign correspondent in the Middle East. And he's a distant Lowther cousin, as it happens, and he has a house up in Rosgill. And he's sort of started living here more permanently than he used to. He and I met, and I've always done events and dressage competitions, and I was married to a musician, and I used to organise concerts, and I once ran a chutney festival in Scotland, but we only did it once. It was a bit bonkers, but it was quite fun. Anyway, I've always wanted to do something here, and I also really like the idea of upsizing as you get older, rather than downsizing. And this is definitely me upsizing because it's going to be a massive kind of millstone around my neck for the next 10 years at least. And I mean that in a good way. So we decided we wanted to do a literary festival. Christopher is going to be the director, and I'm the producer. So he's the one who's doing the programming, and he's got the kind of overall sense of how it's going to appear as a literary event. Both the writers and the interviewers, the moderators. And I'm the one who gets to make it look and feel like a festival. We were sort of casting around for a venue. We were thinking the south of the county. We don't want to interfere with anything that goes on at Keswick, because that's a great festival in its own right. And we don't really feel that we will be going head to head with Litfest in Lancaster, although I may stand to be corrected. And somebody who Christopher knows, who runs a Chalk Valley History Festival in Wiltshire, said the key thing is toilets and parking. And I thought, oh God, where are we going to find, infrastructure? We were going to do something with the croppers at the paper factory in Kendal. We thought Kendal would be a good place, but actually where the factory is, as some people will know, it's in Burneside, and there's just not enough infrastructure there. Anyway, I suddenly woke up in the middle of one night thinking, I know where there are good loos. It's at Cartmel Racecourse, because they actually won a prize for their loos. And also they've got parking, because they have 9 days of racing a year, and 20,000 people on a good day go and park there. So I went to Hooker and asked them if we could hold the festival there, and they kind of fell over themselves to say yes. They really like the idea of it sort of sandwiching in between their using the infrastructure of the racecourse and bringing something different to Cartmel. And it's really on brand, not only for Hooker itself and the Hooker group, but also for Cartmel. It's a beautiful place. It's a foodie place. It needs a literary festival. And all of this, we came up with this in sort of early last year. By the way, do ask me a question if you need to, but otherwise I'll just witter on. And then we had a sort of public launch where we started to fundraise in October in the grandstand building at Cartmel, and that all seemed to go down quite well so far. With all the people I've spoken to, both inside Cartmel and beyond, I haven't had anyone kind of rolling up their eyebrows. Well, actually, that's not true. One person said, "Who needs another literary festival?" But we've chosen to ignore him. But generally speaking, I think people really like the idea. I think they like the idea of we're going to showcase lots of local food and local food producers, which goes hand in hand with Cartmel as it stands as a kind of, Rogan HQ. And we're going to condense as many talks as we can possibly house into a weekend. It's going to be the second weekend in June, every year until we both die on the job.
Are you going to get? Is it going to fund itself, Charlotte, or are you going to try and get some money from somewhere? Or
well, I'm applying for all sorts of different sort of public funding. We've got a bit of sponsorship, and we've signed up. We've got about 20 patrons so far. Anybody who knows anyone who might like to get to either to sponsor a talk or a tent or the whole festival, that would be mega. I don't imagine we'll get that kind of sponsorship until we've held the event at least once, if not twice, and people know that we can do it. But I've applied to the Arts Council. They rejected it, but they rejected it very nicely. So I will apply again. We need a little bit more. We need more people to say that they want it and need it, because that's how the Arts Council works. So we're holding an event in Cartmel on June the 20th, if anyone wants to come along, in the village hall, and we're just calling it a meet and greet, but just to sort of so people can eyeball us and put our backs to the wall and say, what exactly do you hope to achieve with this? Another really important aspect of this is that we're doing a schools programme, and we want to take some of the best parts of the festival out into schools, particularly in the end game is Barrow. But we've signed up a couple of schools at Dalham outside Kendal and Cartmel CV School. And that will probably take the form of workshops from some of the authors who come to the festival. And it will also be giving the students from those schools, we're looking at the top age range. We're not doing children's books, but giving them the opportunity to be stewards and guides, so and if any of them are confident enough to introduce talks, just to give. I think book festivals they can just tend to be full of old people, and I want it to have an atmosphere where it's very inclusive across the age ranges, and because that always makes a better party. And we are thinking of this as, I mean, party is maybe a bit frivolous, but to have a genuinely festive atmosphere. So the schools, we won't do anything with the schools until next year because that's too much to organize. We're just trying to sign up partner schools at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, go on.
No, so second weekend in June for the next 10 years, Cartmel Racecourse would be the place to be if you like your books and your authors, and a bit of a party by the sound of things, and a bit of food probably too.
Food, and we're going to have a choral concert on the Saturday night in Cartmel Priory, which will be open to, I mean, that's ticketed, that will be open to the public. Okay. And the same choir is singing the Eucharist on Sunday morning. And we'll have welcome drinks on the Friday night, which again will be ticketed and anyone can come. And we'll try and make sure that as many of the writers are there as possible. So you have a feeling that, you're all in it together.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, as someone who organises a few things myself, I'm totally in awe of your long distance planning already that's taken place. You've got a nice little website there, which Amy's put a link into chat for. You've got quite a lot of detailed planning that you've got in your head already. So congratulations on just getting the ball rolling, because these things are, as you say, things that take on momentum of their own, and then it'll be the millstone around your neck in a lovely way for the next 10 years to make it happen.
If anyone here knows anybody who might like to get involved, we'll obviously rely on a sort of army of volunteers just for the weekend. So if anybody knows anybody who'd like to come and, I don't know, be in charge of a tent for a day or whatever, or if anybody would like to come to our meet and greet in Cartmel Village Hall, I could put the poster actually on the chat.
Yeah,
you'd be more than welcome.
That'd be great, lovely. And Katie's already just chucked an idea into chat there as well, so something to pick up there too. Okay,
great.
Charlotte, you've more than earned your crust this morning, talking about two big projects, both of which are beautiful and both of which are very cultural for the county. And it's lovely that those are taking place within the four walls of Cumbria. So thank you for sharing all of that, and congratulations on what you've done at Lowther already. Let's hope that pinnacle goes in safe and sound with that big crane. And good luck with the planning slow burn, but it'll soon become a quick burn for the festival next June at Cartmel. So thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning. Lovely slides about Lowther as well. Right, so it's 17 minutes past 10. We're now going to cross to Barrow, and we're going to find out about this wonderful sounding exhibition, See Like a Mirror, which is on the rounds at the moment. It's come to Barrow next weekend for the bank holiday. Miranda Hill knows much more about it than I do. And we've also got a bit of a clip of the artist involved as well, Ivan Morrison. So Miranda, over to you to tell us a bit about it, and then we'll watch the clip of Ivan.
Thanks. Hi everyone. Just want to say thanks, Charlotte. That was really gorgeous, and you documented the process so well. I love the images from Lowther Castle. I haven't been yet, but I will be there soon. So hi everyone. I'm from ArtGene. For those who don't know ArtGene, we're an artist-led charity in Barrow and Furness, and all of the work that we do sort of focuses on reimagining the social, natural and built environment through lots of different projects, including this one that is coming to Barrow next week. So as Tom said, this is a touring project, exhibition, artwork. It's called See Like a Mirror, and it's celebrating the 200th anniversary of the RNLI across the bank holiday weekend. It's in collaboration with Cement Fields, who are another organisation based in Kent, and with an artist called Ivan Morrison, and he's part of a really fantastic duo called Pete Morrison. So, Tom, if it's all right, do you want to show the video and then I'll carry on and give you a bit more
Yes, we'll line
context.
up. Amy's doing great business here, lining it up, and we'll see what Ivan's got to say.
I'm Ivan Morrison, artist, making a piece of work called White Horses at the moment, here in Cromer, doing some filming. So White Horses is a 16mm film that charts the work of the RNLI in 6 different locations around the UK, and it also looks at the work of other people who have a connection to the sea, that professional connection or it's more of a personal connection. So, you know, trawlermen, people who work on wind farms, oyster farms, swimmers, all sorts of things in all the different locations. So it's sort of the RNLI as people, the communities, and the things that happen around them as well. So just trying to sort of put them in the sort of slightly wider context. I think I was really interested with the RNLI to look at their sort of this state of preparedness they kind of exist within. Like so much of their work is not dashing out to sea to rescue people. It's about being ready to do that at any moment. And that means training, but it also means, you know, being in this sort of permanent state of being ready to sort of dash down to the station, being close enough to do that at any point. And, you know, from the conversations we've had, that is quite a kind of powerful feeling to hold for many years sometimes, you know. You have a buzzer that goes off. So yeah, I've been sort of filming those sorts of kind of quieter, the quieter side of what the RNLI do, I guess. So I'm in Cromer at the moment. It's one of our stations, filming the Sunday training at the station. So they have an amazing station here at the end of the pier. It's with this sort of classic slipway and the boat that goes down the slipway, and so it's great. I've been able to go out on the boat today and filming some training, what they're doing out there, and all sorts of different things there. So we're doing that. We have some more filming to do this afternoon, and nearly at the end of the filming period. We've been filming over winter. I think I was kind of interested. I mean, that's how the project fell, but I quite like the idea of filming around the coast of Britain in the winter. It's a very different kind of look and a different feel than, you know, beaches full of people. It's people just getting on with living and work as well. And then the filming's done, and then we come back and show the film in each of the locations. I think it's this thing I really like about the project, is that, you know, we don't come and film and then the film just goes somewhere else. Like, it comes back to each place, and that's where the audience is, the people we filmed, really. And they obviously get to see themselves, but they also get to see themselves in context with other stations, different locations, and other within the context of other people who also have this connection to the sea, this sort of drawn to the sea. And so you must be, I guess, if you want to. And I mean, I'm hoping it's kind of like a powerful experience. I think, you know, it's you know, the physical nature of what it is probably different from how you normally, like, we see TV or film. Like, we see a lot of TV and film, but this is being shown in cinema tent. I don't know what to describe it. Like, it's a tent that we've designed. It's like a bit like a small circus tent, and it's being shown on film as well. So 60mm film. So we have this amazing old projector that makes so much noise. So it's sort of like, you know, and it's hot, and, you know, it's hot and noisy, and you know, so there's this the physical experience in the tent is different. So that experience is different. It's sort of hopefully that sort of moves you out of the kind of normal kind of mode that you watch TV or films in. But then and that's kind of, that accounts for quite a large portion of what the work is, you know, creating an experience, you know. But you know, we need a film in the middle of that as well. And I hope the film is, well, I don't know, I haven't edited it. I haven't even seen, I don't know what it's going to be. This is the weird thing, because it's film, like we haven't processed anything that we've shot yet. So, and that's all, so, you know, we'll get that and then we'll put it together. So it will just be a kind of very partial kind of glimpse of like what the coast is like over this winter, you know. But because it's on film, like the quality's kind of terrible, kind of evocative though, you know. So it's more like a feeling, I guess. I guess it's just a feeling. I think I'd hope people will get from it, you know, like a mood. That's it.
Magic. Thank you.
It's always fascinating to watch and hear artists talk about their art and how easy or difficult that process may be. What a nice man with a lovely face and a lovely smile. Tell us a bit more, Miranda.
Yeah, he's lovely. So that's Ivan. He's coming to Barrow next week. I think he's being very modest. I've seen the film and it's fantastic. And I'd recommend you all come to Barrow next week if you can to see a screening. But yeah, as Ivan said, the film sort of it's two things really. It speaks. It's a celebration of the RNLI and all the incredible work that they're doing, and it also speaks to local people's connection to the sea and the different roles that the sea sort of plays for different people, if you like. And in Barrow, he spoke to loads of local people. He spoke to the team at the oyster hatchery on Walney Island. He's been out on the sands across Morecambe. He's spoken to the volunteers, obviously from the RNLI Centre, and the owners of Hill Ferries. He went foraging with the lovely Kate Davis, local poet and forager. So loads of things, and it gives you, I think, a really good perspective of, the whole of the UK. He's been to 5, if not more, different places across the UK's coast. And yeah, I think it's an abstract, interesting, experimental film. So the details, it's showing in this large tent, which will be on show on a field in Bigger Village on Walney from next Thursday to Sunday. So please get yourselves booked onto that if you can make it to Barrow. And that's via the Art Gene Eventbrite website. And then we also have a number of different other activities taking place across the whole weekend. So on Friday, we've got a Q&A with Ivan after the screening, refreshments provided. Please all come to that. On Saturday, there's a local history talk at the Queen's Arms pub in Bigger, and that's with Peter Laird, who's a local historian, and he'll be talking about the history of the RNLI Centre and the structure and the lifeboats. And he's got loads of really fascinating stories and images to show. And then on Sunday, we've got a walk to Peel across the sands with the 2 lovely Johns. And I've probably missed something. There's loads, and we've got a flyer, which I'm going to post onto the group chat now. But please come along. If anyone would like to volunteer as well and get experience in production or front of house, you'd be really welcome to get on board and join us for that. And I know Derek's on the call today, and thank you, Derek, for all your support, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you next week. So that's sort of a summary. I'm aware of the time, but if anyone has
that's
any
great,
questions.
Miranda, thank you. And Amy has very helpfully put the link to the whole programme into chat. So basically the film has been shown a number of different times in a number of different locations, is my understanding, and there's quite a few activities around those screenings as well. I was at Bigger in my camper van just a few weeks ago. Actually, I spent a night on Walney.
Oh,
it was
that's
gorgeous.
lovely.
I went for a nice wander around the nature reserve in the south of Walney, and I was at Peel last summer. I got the ferry though. I didn't walk across to Peel. I got the ferry across from the mainland. I had a nice couple of pints in the pub there and wandered around the island. So I like the idea of going to Peel. And if the RNLI there around as well, then you'll be safe. And there's a great lifeboat station with a really steep ramp just off between Peel and the mainland, on the mainland, which is where you get a little ferry from across to
Yeah, and I
Plymouth.
meant to say as well,
Nice
there's
part of the world.
a free heritage bus from the Dock Museum, which is driving around
Who doesn't
to
like a heritage
Ponteviga,
bus?
and yeah, so come down. That's on the Saturday, and you can. Well, we're encouraging you all to travel sustainably. Bring your bike. If not your bike, jump on the bus.
Excellent. I like the sound of all that already. Thank you very much indeed. Miranda, thank you. I'm conscious of time. Well done for squeezing all that in. And what a lovely little film of Ivan talking about where it's all come from and what he wants
Yeah.
people to achieve from it in this hot tent. And it's a feeling, isn't it? I think is what he said. And he's absolutely right.
It is a feeling.
Thank you. Kate, you wanted to mention something going on at Rosehill quickly before we finish.
Yes, so as per what Jen Garrick said this time last week, Jen Garrick is the director at Rosehill Theatre. She was talking about the Frontier Theatre Festival, which has been at Rosehill all week. But don't forget, this afternoon at 2 p.m, the Knotted Project Forge Festival emerging creatives are sharing their work at 2 o'clock, and I saw that at Windermere Jetty not so long back, and I can really recommend it heartily. Extremely high quality work by a small number of selected young creatives. So 2 o'clock this afternoon at Rosehill Theatre.
Thank you much indeed. Next week, we're going to hear about Evan's Shepherd's Hut. So Evan, who are a network of artists based out of Penrith, have managed to create basically a shepherd's hut for people to use for their art in different ways. A quiet space, but it's portable. So Simon Wally's going to come and tell us about that and where that's come from. Plus a couple of other things that I'm cooking up as well. And don't forget, on June the 6th, Darren Henley, the Chief Exec of Arts Council, is going to be on this call, ostensibly to talk about a book that he's published, which is a revision of a book he published 10 years ago about basically why art matters, but also a chance to ask Darren Henley, the Chief Exec of the Arts Council, some questions if you wanted to put a question to him. So he's going to come on June the 6th, which is in a few weeks' time. Thanks for all your contributions this morning, everybody. Charlotte, double credit for 2 stories that you told. And Miranda, thank you very much for your lovely story about that exhibition, See Like a Mirror, taking place at Barrow next weekend. Lovely to see you all. Enjoy the sunshine. Hope your gardens aren't too dry. And enjoy the ice cream. And catch you again sometime soon. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.